I was standing at the bar of the Fairmont Grand Ballroom, holding a champagne flute I hadn't touched, when my sister's husband walked up to me and said the words that would change everything. "You're Melissa Chen, the Melissa Chen, CEO of Catalyst Digital." I looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time in the 3 years he'd been married to my sister. He was staring at me like I was someone important, someone worth knowing. My sister was across the room, 30 feet away, laughing with a group of women in expensive dresses. She hadn't seen me yet, hadn't noticed I was at this gala at all, because in her mind, I didn't belong at events like this. I was the little sister who'd started some computer thing that she'd never bothered to understand or ask about. But her husband knew exactly who I was, and the look on his face told me he was about to tell her. Let me back up. My sister's name is Victoria. She's 5 years older than me, and from the moment I was born, she made it clear that I existed in her shadow. Not because she was cruel. Victoria was never outright mean. She was just so convinced of her own superiority that she genuinely didn't see me as someone worth paying attention to. Victoria was the golden child. Beautiful, charismatic, socially adept. She went to a good college on a partial scholarship, majored in communications, got a job at a PR firm right after graduation, met the right people, wore the right clothes, said the right things. She was everything my parents had hoped for in a daughter. I was the weird one, the quiet one who spent too much time on computers, who preferred coding to parties, who got a full scholarship to State University for computer science, and worked my ass off while Victoria was networking at cocktail parties. When I graduated at 22 and started my own digital marketing agency, Victoria's reaction was polite disinterest. "That's nice," she said when I told the family at Sunday dinner. "A little freelance thing?" "No, an actual company. I have 3 clients already, and I'm hiring my first employee next month." "Oh, well, good for you." She turned to our mother. "Did I tell you about the Vanderbilt account we just landed? $20 million campaign." She didn't land it. Her firm landed it. She was an account coordinator. But she talked about it like she'd personally closed the deal. And my parents hung on every word. My company, Catalyst Digital, wasn't a little freelance thing. It was a legitimate digital marketing agency specializing in social media strategy and content creation for mid-sized businesses. I'd started it with $12,000 I'd saved from working through college, and a client list I'd built by doing freelance work on nights and weekends during my senior year. Year 1, I made $68,000 in revenue. Not profit, revenue. After expenses and paying myself a bare minimum salary, I maybe cleared $20,000. But it was mine, built from nothing. Victoria made $55,000 a year at her PR firm. Our parents acted like she was running a Fortune 500 company. Year 2, I hired 3 people. Revenue hit $230,000. I paid myself a real salary, $65,000. More than Victoria made. I moved out of my shitty studio apartment into a real 1-bedroom in a decent neighborhood. I told my family at Thanksgiving dinner, "Business is going really well. We're growing fast. I hired a content strategist and 2 junior designers." "That's wonderful, honey," my mother said absently. She was focused on Victoria, who was showing off her new engagement ring. Victoria had gotten engaged to Bradley Morrison. Old money family, Ivy League education, investment banking job. He was exactly the kind of man Victoria had always said she'd marry. Successful, connected, impressive on paper. "Bradley and I are thinking spring wedding," Victoria said. "Something elegant, maybe at the country club." Our parents were over the moon. My mother cried. My father shook Bradley's hand for what felt like 5 full minutes. They toasted the engagement, took photos, made plans. Nobody asked about my business. Nobody cared that I'd just tripled my revenue and was on track to break 500,000 the first. Next year, I was 24. Victoria was 29. The age gap had always felt bigger than 5 years. She was the established adult with the impressive fiancé and the glamorous job. I was the kid sister with the computer hobby, except my computer hobby was becoming a real company, and I was starting to make real money. More than Victoria. More than Bradley knew, probably. But nobody in my family asked about numbers. They just smiled and nodded when I mentioned work, and then changed the subject to Victoria's wedding plans. The wedding was ridiculous. $15,000 dress. Destination bachelorette party in Napa. 250 guests at a country club reception, with a live band and a 7-course dinner. My parents paid for half. Bradley's parents paid for the other half. Victoria spent months planning every detail. I was a bridesmaid, not the maid of honor. That was Victoria's college roommate, just a regular bridesmaid in a purple dress that cost $300 and that I'd never wear again. I smiled in photos, gave a short, boring toast at the rehearsal dinner, stood at the altar, while Victoria married Bradley, in a ceremony that felt more like a performance than a wedding. Nobody asked about my business. Not once during the entire wedding weekend. Not my parents, not Victoria, not even distant relatives who made small talk at the reception. "What do you do?" one of Bradley's cousins asked me at the cocktail hour. "I run a digital marketing agency." "Oh, how nice. Like social media stuff?" "Yeah, strategy and content creation for... Excuse me, I need to find my husband." She walked away mid-sentence. I wasn't interesting enough to finish a conversation with. I went home from that wedding weekend feeling invisible, like I could disappear and my family wouldn't notice for weeks. Year 3 of my business, revenue hit $490,000. I had 7 employees, real office space, major clients. We were getting written up in local business publications. I was 25 years old, running a $500,000 agency. I told my parents over dinner one Sunday, "We just signed our biggest client yet, $300,000 annual contract. We're going to break 7 figures in revenue next year." My father looked up from his phone. "That's great, honey. We're thinking about expanding, maybe opening a second location." Victoria wasn't even there. She and Bradley had stopped coming to Sunday dinners as often after they got married. Too busy with their own social calendar. Country club events, charity galas, dinners with Bradley's business connections. We'd text the family group chat occasionally, with updates, photos from their honeymoon in Greece, pictures of their new condo, purchased with help from Bradley's parents for the down payment, updates about Bradley's promotions at the investment bank. Never once did she ask how my business was going. Never once did she acknowledge that I'd built something real. I stopped expecting her to. Stopped mentioning my successes in the group chat. Stopped trying to get my family to see what I was doing. I just built, hired more people, landed bigger clients, grew revenue, saved money, invested in the business and in myself. By the time I was 27, Catalyst Digital had 18 employees and revenue of $1.4 million. I paid myself a salary of $130,000, more than double what Victoria made. Probably close to what Bradley made, though I didn't know his exact salary. I'd moved to a luxury apartment building downtown, drove a new BMW, wore clothes, not because I was trying to impress anyone, just because I could afford it now. Because I'd earned it. Victoria didn't notice the new car when I drove it to Christmas dinner. Didn't comment on the Burberry coat I wore. Didn't why I seemed to always be traveling for work, speaking at conferences, meeting with clients in other cities, building my reputation in the industry. She was too busy talking about Bradley's latest promotion, their plans to buy a house, her new position at the PR firm. Senior account manager now, making $72,000 a year, and acting like she was a C-suite executive. I stopped going to family dinners as often. once a month instead of every week. Made excuses about being busy with work, which was true. But also, I just didn't want to sit there, being invisible, while Victoria performed her perfect life for our parents. The gala invitation came in September. The Regional Business Excellence Awards. Black tie event at the Fairmont Grand Ballroom. Catalyst Digital had been nominated in the Emerging Business category. Companies under 5 years old showing exceptional growth and innovation. I'd been nominated by one of my clients. Didn't think we'd actually win, but the nomination itself was an honor. Recognition from the business community that what I'd built mattered. The invitation said I could bring a guest. I didn't bring anyone. Didn't tell my family about it. Didn't see the point. They wouldn't understand what it meant, wouldn't care that I was being recognized alongside companies doing 10 times my revenue. I bought a new dress. Black, simple, elegant, expensive. The kind of dress Victoria would wear to one of her charity events. I got my hair and mentioned out. We took itself my life. Wore Faith my diamond earrings I'd bought myself when we hit our first million in revenue. I looked good. Felt good. Walked into that ballroom feeling like I belonged there. The event was impressive. 500 people. Business leaders, entrepreneurs, executives, people I'd read about in business journals, people whose companies I'd studied when building my own. I recognized faces from the local business community, clients I'd worked with, competitors I respected, and then I saw her. Victoria, across the ballroom, in a blue gown that probably cost more than my dress, standing with Bradley, and a group of people I didn't recognize, laughing that performance laugh she did at social events. My stomach dropped. What was she doing here? The PR firm she worked for wasn't nominated. Bradley's investment bank wasn't nominated. They didn't belong at a Business Excellence Awards ceremony. Unless Bradley's firm had bought a table, corporate sponsorship. That made sense. Investment banks did that. Bought tables at charity events and business galas for networking and visibility. I turned away, headed to the bar. Ordered champagne I didn't want, just to have something to hold. Tried to blend into the crowd. I didn't want Victoria to see me. Didn't want to explain why I was there. Didn't want her polite, dismissive, "Oh, that's nice," reaction to my nomination. I just wanted to enjoy this evening, without having to make myself small for her comfort. The ceremony started. Mary put Mitness. They announced the finalists in each category, called us up on stage for recognition, even if we didn't win. When they announced Catalyst Digital as a finalist in Emerging Business, I walked up those stairs alone. No family cheering, no one I knew in the audience, but the applause was real. The recognition was real. The CEO standing next to me leaned over and said, "I've heard great things about your agency. We should talk." We didn't win. The award went to a biotech startup that had just secured Series A funding. But standing on that stage, being recognized as a finalist among companies doing incredible work, felt like winning. I walked off stage and headed back to the bar. That's when Bradley appeared. "You're Melissa Chen. The Melissa Chen, CEO of Catalyst Digital." I looked at him, confused. "Yeah, hi Bradley. I've been trying to get a meeting with you for months. Our firm wants to hire Catalyst for a complete digital overhaul. Your work with Davidson Financial was incredible. Completely transformed their brand presence." I stared at him. "Bradley, my sister's husband, have been trying to hire my company? Your assistant said you were booked solid through next quarter." He continued, "But if there's any way to move us up the list, we're ready to move forward immediately. Budget is flexible. We need what you're offering." I didn't know your firm was looking at us. Are you kidding? You're one of the top digital agencies in the region. Everyone's talking about Catalyst. The work you did for Morrison Industries last year. He stopped. "Wait, you're Victoria's sister?" "Yeah." His face changed. Confusion. Surprise. Something else I couldn't quite read. She never mentioned. I had no idea you were the Melissa Chen. She doesn't really ask about my work. But your company is... He seemed genuinely baffled. Victoria talks about you like you're still in college, like you're doing some entry-level marketing job. I started my company 6 years ago. We're about to hit 2 million in revenue. He looked at me like I'd just told him I was secretly a movie star. 2 million? And Victoria doesn't... She's never asked. Never asked. Stop telling her. We stood there in awkward silence. Then he said, "She's going to kill me. But you need to come say hello. She's right over there." I had an idea. "Melissa, come on. You just got recognized on stage. You're here at this gala. She needs to know." He took my elbow and started guiding me across the ballroom before I could protest. I wanted to run, wanted to disappear. But I let him lead me to Victoria's table. She saw us coming. Saw me. Her smile froze on her face. "Victoria," Bradley said, his voice too bright. "Look who I found. Your sister." "Melissa, what are you doing here?" Not hi. Not, "It's so good to see you." Just, "What are you doing here?" Like I'd crashed a party I wasn't invited to. "I was nominated for an award," I said simply. "What award?" "Emerging Business Excellence for my company." She looked confused. "Your marketing thing?" "Catalyst Digital. We're a full-service digital marketing agency. 18 employees, 2 million in revenue this year." The table had gone quiet. The other people were watching this exchange, watching Victoria process information that was clearly news to her. 2 million, she repeated, give or take. We just signed a few major contracts that'll push us over. Bradley jumped in. "I've been trying to hire Catalyst for months. Her agency is one of the best in the region. I had no idea she was your sister." Victoria looked between us. Between her husband, who was clearly impressed, and her little sister, who wasn't supposed to be impressive. "You never mentioned you were doing so well," she said. And I heard the accusation in it, like I'd deliberately hidden this from her. "I stopped mentioning it when you stopped listening." The words came out sharper than I intended. The table got even quieter. "That's not fair," Victoria said. "You never talk about work." "I talk about work all the time. You just don't pay attention. You didn't notice when I hired my first employee, or when we hit our first million, or when I bought my new car, or moved to the luxury building downtown. You didn't notice any of it because you were too busy performing your perfect life to see that I was building a real one." Her face went red. People at the table were actively eavesdropping now. This was uncomfortable. This was a scene. This was everything I'd spent my life avoiding. But I was done. Done being invisible. Done making myself small. Done pretending it didn't hurt that my own sister couldn't be bothered to see me. "I have to go," I said. "Bradley, have your assistant email mine. We'll find time to discuss your project." I walked away before Victoria could respond, before I could see her reaction, before the moment could get any worse. I left the gala early, drove home to my luxury apartment, poured a glass of wine, sat on my balcony overlooking the city, and replayed the conversation in my head. I'd finally told her, finally made her see, and it felt empty. Not satisfying, not victorious, just empty. My phone buzzed an hour later. "Victoria calling." I let it go to voicemail. I pretty super sure. My phone buzzed on Friday. My choosed released for me. My really stretch about them directed myself. My phone buzzed an hour later. When let it go to voicemail, but a mizzy. Mode about no really stretch about them. I metchally huge could be a wear book to work with you any of the time. I let it go to voicemail. My phone buzzed an hour later. My phone buzzed and buzzed? My phone buzzed an hour later. She called again. Left a message this time. "Melissa, we need to talk. I had no idea. I didn't realize your company was so successful. Bradley won't stop talking about it. He's upset with me for not telling him about you. Can we have coffee? Please? I deleted the message. Didn't call back. She texted the next day. I'm sorry. I should have paid more attention. I want to understand what you've built. The day after. Mom says you're not coming to Sunday dinner. Because of me? This is ridiculous. We're adults. We should be able to talk about this. A week later. Bradley hired Catalyst. He said you're the best. I should have known. I should have asked. Please talk to me. I didn't respond. Not for 2 weeks. Just focused on work, on the business, on the life I'd built that didn't require her validation. Finally, I agreed to coffee. We met at a cafe halfway between our places. She was already there when I arrived. Looking nervous in a way I'd never seen Victoria look before. Thank you for coming, she said as I sat down. You wanted to talk? So talk. I'm sorry, really sorry. I had no idea you'd built something so significant. Bradley says your agency is revolutionizing digital marketing in the region, that you're one of the top 3 firms everyone wants to work with. I've been building it for 6 years. You never asked. I know, I just thought, I don't know what I thought, that it was small, a side thing. I didn't realize that I was successful, more successful than you? She flinched. That's not what I meant, but it's what you meant. You couldn't imagine your little sister doing better than you, being more successful, making more money, building something bigger. You make more than me? I make more than you and Bradley combined. My salary alone is $130,000, plus profit distributions, plus equity in a company that's valued at over $3 million. She looked like I'd slapped her, just stared at me with her mouth slightly open. I didn't know, she whispered. Because you didn't ask. For 6 years, you didn't ask. You talked about your job like you were running the world, while I was building an actual company. You showed off Bradley's promotions while I was doubling my revenue every year. You performed your perfect life while dismissing mine as a hobby. I never meant to dismiss, but you did. Over and over. Every time I mentioned work and you changed the subject. Every time I achieved something and you didn't acknowledge it. Every time you acted like I was still the weird little sister who liked computers. She was crying now. Real tears, not performative ones. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say. I'm sorry I didn't see you. I'm sorry I made you feel invisible. I was so focused on my own life that I didn't pay attention to yours. Why? I asked. Why couldn't you just be happy for me? Why couldn't you see that I was doing well and be proud? She was quiet for a long time. Then, because you weren't supposed to be successful than me. You were the little sister, the one I was supposed to mentor and help and guide. And you didn't need any of that. You just went out and built something incredible on your own. And I didn't know how to fit that into the story I'd told myself about us. At least it was honest. I don't need you to fit me into your story, I said. I just needed you to see me, to care, to ask about my life the way I've always asked about yours. I know, you're right. I've been a terrible sister. Yeah, you have been. We sat in silence, her crying quietly, me feeling that same empty nothing. Can we start over? She asked eventually. Can I learn about your company? About what you've built? Can you teach me to see you? I thought about it. About whether I wanted Victoria in my life now. Whether her attention mattered after years of not having it. I don't know, I said honestly. I spent so long being invisible to you that I built a life where I don't need you to see me anymore. I have people who value me, clients who respect me, employees who depend on me, a business community that recognizes what I've built. I'm not sure what you're offering me that I don't already have. A sister who actually knows you, who's proud of you, who wants to be part of your life. You had the chance to be those things. You chose not to be. I know, but people can change. I can change. I want to change. I didn't believe her. Not really. But I also didn't want to completely close the door. I'll think about it, I said. But I'm not making any promises. You hurt me for years, and I'm not obligated to forgive that just because you finally noticed I exist. I understand. I left coffee feeling conflicted. Part of me wanted to give her a chance. Part of me wanted to protect myself from being disappointed again. Bradley's firm did hire Catalyst. $350,000 contract. Biggest deal we'd ever signed. He was professional about it, never mentioned Victoria, never made it awkward, just treated it like business. But he'd tell her about our meetings, about the strategy sessions, about the innovative approaches we were taking. And she'd text me occasionally with messages like, "Bradley says, your presentation was incredible," or, "He's so impressed with your team." Secondhand pride through her husband. It was pathetic, but it was something. My parents finally noticed when Victoria told them. Called me upset that I hadn't shared how successful my business was. "We had no idea," my mother said. "You never told us you were making that kind of money." "I told you we were growing, that we were landing major clients. You just didn't listen." "Well, we're listening now. We're so proud of you." Too late. Years too late. "Thanks," I said flatly. "When can we come see your office? We'd love to see what you've built." "I'll let you know." I never did. Just kept that part of my life separate from them. Kept them at the same distance they'd kept me at for years. Victoria tried harder. Started actually asking about work. Came to a speaking engagement I did at a local conference. Invited me to lunch to discuss business strategy. Like we were colleagues instead of sisters. It was weird, stilted. Neither of us knew how to have a relationship that wasn't built on the old dynamic of her being superior and me being invisible. But it was something. More than we'd had before. A year later, Catalyst Digital won the Emerging Business Excellence Award we'd been nominated for. Same gala, same ballroom, same black tie event. This time, I invited my family. My parents came, Victoria and Bradley came. They sat at my table, cheered when my name was called, took photos of me on stage accepting the award. My mother cried. My father beamed with pride. Victoria hugged me afterward and said, "I'm so proud of you. I should have said that years ago." "Yeah," I said. "You should have." But she was saying it now. And even though it didn't erase the years of being invisible, it meant something. We're not close. Victoria and I probably never will be. Too much history. Too many years of being dismissed. Too much resentment on my side and guilt on hers. But we're something. We're sisters who acknowledge each other now, who ask about each other's lives, who show up for the important moments. It's not what I wanted when I was younger, when I desperately needed her to see me, but it's what we have now. And I've accepted that. Here's what I learned. You can't make people see you. You can't force family to value your achievements. You can't demand recognition from people who are too focused on themselves to notice anyone else. All you can do is build your life anyway. Achieve your goals anyway. Become successful anyway. Not to prove them wrong. Not to force them to see. Just because you deserve to succeed, regardless of whether they're watching. And maybe one day they'll notice. Maybe they'll finally see what you've built. Maybe they'll feel guilty for all the years they ignored you. Or maybe they won't. Maybe they'll keep dismissing you, keep minimizing your achievements, keep treating you like you don't matter. Either way, you'll have built something real, Something that exists independent of their validation. Something that proves your worth, even if they never acknowledge it. My sister ignored my business success for 6 years. Until her husband met me at a gala and told her exactly who I was. Until she couldn't ignore it anymore. Because everyone else was recognizing what she'd refused to see. And by then, I didn't need her recognition. I had my own. I had built a $2 million company. I had 18 employees who valued me. I had clients who trusted me. I had a business community that respected me. I had everything I needed. And her belated acknowledgement was just a footnote, not the validation I'd been waiting for. Just an interesting development in a life I'd built entirely without her. That, I feel I can get Rivera's start. That's the real revenge. Not making them see you. Just succeeding so completely that whether or not they see you becomes irrelevant. My sister finally sees me now, but I don't need her to anymore. And that makes all the difference.